I want to have like a mocha or something. Hey y'all, second installment right now. I'm a little more than halfway through and it's definitely picking up. Action has begun. So let's get right into it. Just start over. Let's get into it. So overnight, as I thought more and more about it, I really think that Tim Allerton is going to be a thief. I don't know what else the Miss Leach thing would have. Like, I don't know why that would be in there. And I think he's going to steal her pearls. And I think that's going to be, I think that and this like Simon Doyle, Jackie, de Belfort is gonna, I think those are gonna be two major points. We're still learning about the people. We haven't even met everybody that's there. Miss Otterton, we find out a little bit more about her. She says, so if you remember, she was saying at the last hotel in Jerusalem that she thought that she should get a discount because she's just being there as an advertisement. Well, we find out she says she's a famous novelist. She writes scandalous romances that her daughter is clearly embarrassed about. She says she's practically a teetotaler. You never know what's going to be a clue. In my last video, I had a mineral water conspiracy theory, and this time I think I have a Tim's a thief conspiracy theory. I don't know if that's going to pan out, but I feel like it's for sure a thing. So Lynette tells Poirot that she's the subject of intolerable persecution. Simon's held her back from going to police, saying that they couldn't help anyway. Jackie threatened both her and Simon when Simon left Jackie, but instead of following through on those threats, Jackie's just following them around everywhere they go and making her really uncomfortable. But I was thinking, if Simon and Jackie are in it together and conning her, either planning to murder her or just to somehow, like, I don't know, get a divorce and get her money or something, then this would be a good way to torment her first, I guess, to make things, I mean, it would make sense. But if Jackie threatened her and then Jackie kills her, I don't know, it seems like too obvious, right? Which is what I wrote here. It's part of their plan to make her suffer by not being able to control everything like the tyrant she's used to being. Oh yeah. So if Jackie's upset enough to do something like this to her dear friend, then I think it's because Lynette has no idea what it's like to be helpless or out of control. Like they've made a huge point in this book to say that she's always in control and that she gets what she wants, like every time. She has no idea what it's like to not get what she wants or to be disapproved of or whatever. And so even if they're not going to kill her, they might just be wanting her to get sort of a taste of what it's like to be like a normal person and not be able to control everything. Which honestly, the more they talk about Jackie threatening her and being like open about that, it seems like that makes her less and less of a suspect to me. Okay, so then Jackie is talking to Poirot and she shows him a small pistol and she's saying she said that she's still in love with Simon, but that he hates her now and he'd better be careful. And she says she's a really good shot. So again, threatening her and threatening them with a gun to Poirot, like, it makes it too obvious, right? It's just too obvious. It can't possibly be her. Then she describes herself to Poirot as the moon, beautiful in its own right, but it's hidden completely when the sun comes out, or it's overshadowed when the sun comes out, the sun being Lynette. And then just a couple pages later, Simon uses the same reference, using almost the exact same words, also to Poirot. So I feel like, and Poirot definitely noticed it, and I feel like that's, I mean, I feel like they've talked about it, like why, I mean, I feel like Jackie gave him those words at some point, like mentioned it to him, like that's how she feels when she's around Lynette. And let's do this thing to show her what it's like to not be that person. But I don't know. So I do feel like they're in it together, but I don't know that they're going to be the ones that murder her. not sure. So then Poirot is at the hotel. I think it's the day before or the morning of when they're going to all get on this boat. And a mystery man shows up. He's a tall, dark-haired young man. He joins Poirot and a stranger on the hotel boat to Elephantine Island. He's wearing extremely dirty gray flannel trousers, and we don't find out who he is at this time. Oh, by the way, I got a comment today from someone on my other Agatha Christie video, and they suggested that I make somehow, like, so write the names really big or write their initials or something big enough that you can see, and then maybe use an illustration when we're talking about, like, the layout of the boat and stuff. So I haven't had time to figure that out today, but I do think I'm going to do that because I do appreciate your comments and your suggestions. In fact, this book was because of your comments and suggestions. So please feel free to leave me any info, any suggestions, anything that would make this more fun for you and more interactive. Yeah, please let me know because I take that seriously and I want this to be fun for you and me. So feel free. So the other person that's on that boat to Elephantine Island is Signor Guido Ricchetti. He's an archaeologist and he's a slightly podgy, middle-aged guy and he's loquacious. He really likes to talk. And then that evening, Poirot is talking to Mrs. Allerton when everybody else has gone to do a camel ride. They get to talking about the idea that anybody could commit a crime. That it's not just like bad people that commit crimes. It's like there's something that can make everyone capable of committing a crime. And so they try to come up with a motive for crime suitable for everyone at the hotel, like most of these people. So Miss Allerton, she was saying she didn't think that was true. And then he said, well, you know, she could be particularly ruthless if her child was in danger. And she was like, okay, well, actually, that's true. So in that case, let's see what we can come up with for everyone else. So Simon Doyle, Poirot said it would be a very simple crime and there'd be no subtlety and he'd for sure get caught. Then Lynette, Miss Allerton says that she would be like off with her head like the Queen of Hearts. Jacqueline, Poirot, this is actually funny because he's like very wishy-washy about this and he says he's actually doubtful of whether she could murder someone. Then they say of Andrew Pennington, the lawyer, that he has a strong sense of self-preservation. And then Mrs. Otterton, that is the novelist, she would commit a crime if her vanity was at stake. So then we have our mystery man on the boat. On the boat ride back, he is extremely vocal about what he thinks of capitalism. He says human beings matter more than stone. He'd rather see a well-fed worker than any work of art. And he spoke with the utmost venom. So I'm sure he'd hate Lynette and everything she stands for. So then the Allertons, Poirot, the mystery man, who at this time I thought might be Jim Fanthorpe, because we didn't know, you know, he hadn't shown up yet. But I thought maybe that was him. But why would he be like, I hate capitalists? Unless he was he's deep into cover. The Italian, which is Signor Guido Ricchetti, they all took a train to the boat that people were going to. The Otterborns went a different way. And then Lynette and Simon, they spread the rumor like we're staying for like 2 weeks. But then they left for like just a day tour somewhere. And their maid snuck off with all of their luggage. And then they like secreted off to this boat because they were trying to lose Jackie. Okay, so on the train, Poirot meets Van Schuyler, old Miss Van Schuyler. And he describes her as an elderly lady with a wrinkled face, a stiff white stock, a good many diamonds, and an expression of reptilian contempt for the majority of mankind. And I thought, the mention of the diamonds, is Tim going to steal them from her? Like, I'm on my thief conspiracy theory. I feel like this book has so much more character building at the beginning before things start happening. I really don't know how much of this is going to be important, but I don't want to leave out anything just in case. I want to bring you on the journey of the book with me. Journey to the center of the book. That sounds way too much like how many licks does it take to get to the center of an Agatha Christie novel. When Poirot sees Lynette on the boat, he describes her as positively arrogant with happiness at having like escaped Jackie. But then she turns ghastly when Jackie shows up, of course, which happens like that. And later she tells Poirot quite desperately, "Everyone hates me, except for Simon. I'm surrounded by enemies," which makes me feel like she's done something for every one of these. The lawyers, it's obvious, they're making money off of her. I'm not sure about the Otterborns, except I think it's got to be the cottage thing. Van Skyler, what business does she have with Van Skyler? What is the connection that these people would be her enemy? That the fact that we don't know that actually makes me almost more suspicious of them than other people, than the Allertons, right? We know that Mrs. Allerton is upset about Sir George Woad, and that maybe Tim, I don't know, I'm not sure why she would think he was her enemy, but maybe there's something with Joanna and him, I'm not sure. Then obviously Jacqueline is her enemy for a reason, but it's very interesting. She went from thinking she had no enemies to feeling surrounded by enemies. Dun dun dun. When Jackie shows up on the steamer, Simon, like off to the side, Simon tells Lynette, and Poirot overhears, "We can't run away forever, Lynn. We've got to go through with this now." Does he mean like go through with the boat ride and just like face up to her? Or is he talking about something else? Like, what is it that he has to go through with? Then Lynette is talking to Poirot again, and she tells him that Simon's super sensitive about her having a lot of money. Like, she can't talk to him about money or like be ostentatious with money because it makes him feel lesser. And in fact, he wanted to honeymoon in some tiny out-of-the-way place in Spain and him pay for everything, despite the fact that like he doesn't have a lot of money. I was wondering, is it that he's so upset about her money, or is it that if they had gone to some little out-of-the-way place in Spain, some sort of accident could have happened and it would have been easier to get away with? By the way, you should probably drink some water. Just a health tip. So later, Mrs. Allerton invites Poirot to dine with her and her son. And when she tells Tim that, he's really upset. I mean, he just does not like Poirot. He calls him an unmitigated little bounder. Mrs. Allen's surprised because Tim really likes detective stories and like crime stories. So she thought that he would actually enjoy the company. And at dinner, Tim comments, like just a random comment about Lynette's pearls. I've also thought he said that Joanna doesn't pay her bills and that's how she gets by on money. But I wonder if either she's not a thief too, or if he supplies her money with his thievery. Okay, so a new character shows up on the steamboat. So we're not done meeting characters yet. This guy's name is Dr. Besner. He's fat, he has a shaved head, a mustache, and he's German. That was not supposed to be a German accent. I'm just talking funny. I think you always have to have a doctor for these like little closed room mystery. Like it has to be this group of people. It couldn't be an outsider. You have to have a doctor there because you need that information. So our doctor has arrived. Jim Fanthorpe arrives. And so he's not the mystery man, but he's on the steamer and he is an intensely quiet young man who never speaks. He has a nice face. He's cautious, intelligent, and listens very attentively. And Poirot says, and he watches too, and that he's not the type you'd expect to be traveling for pleasure. And then we have Mr. Ferguson, and they suspect, and then find out later that they are correct. He is our anti-capitalist mystery man. So we've met a lot of people. I mean, Agatha Christie, when she said in her introduction that there were a lot of characters, she was not kidding. But we now have like a passenger list, right? The people that are on the steamboat that seem to be important are the Allertons, Tim and his mother, Jackie, the Otterborns, Rosalie and her mother, Dr. Besner, the German guy, Lynette, Simon, and her lawyer, Andrew Pennington, Mr. Ferguson, who's the anti-capitalist guy, Jim Fanthorpe, Yep. Who's the other lawyer representative, but of course they don't know that yet. Signor Guido Rossetti, and then the group of Van Schuyler, Cornelia, and Mrs. Bowers. So it seems like one of those people, or more, is going to be our murderer. Okay, I promise we are getting to the murder. It does happen. Just as Poirot is drifting off to sleep, he hears Simon Doyle's voice outside saying, again, we've got to go through with it now. But what I wonder is, who's he saying it to? Is he saying it to Lynette, like he was saying before? Or is he saying it to Jackie? And he was sort of telling it to himself when he said it to Lynette. Like, we've got to go through with it. He's trying to, like, convince himself. And now he's telling Jackie, we got to go through with it. Andrew Pennington finally makes his move. He wants Lynette to sign some documents. And he comes back with a giant sheaf of documents. And she's like, whoa, that, I thought you meant like one or two things. And he's like, oh, just don't worry about it. Just let's get through this. After the first 2 or 3 documents where he's saying, this is that, and she's like reading it extremely thoroughly, he's like, you don't have to take all the time. It's just standard stuff here, just standard stuff. So she's like, oh no, I always read everything. It's not good business to, because Simon's like, yeah, I never read it. Just sign it. And she's like, that's terrible business. I always read everything. She gets to a certain one and she's still reading carefully. And he's like, yeah, this is taking too long. You're right. Like, let's just do it some other time. Don't worry about it. And he won't even like let her see the next one. So he's clearly trying to trick her into signing something. But what? Mr. Ferguson, the anti-capitalist guy, says to Poirot that all these rich folk, including Poirot, ought to be shot. The whole lot of them. But again, I feel like if you say to Poirot, I might shoot someone, like you threaten to shoot someone, and later someone gets shot, you're actually probably not the one that did it. So it kind of makes me think he's not going. I actually feel like I should give a pass to anybody who says they're going to shoot her. Maybe that's backwards of how it should be. We don't ever get a name for this person, but there's a woman with a dark, piquant Latin face who almost bumps into Poirot. She's neatly dressed in black, standing with a big burly man in uniform, one of the engineers perhaps. Both look guilty and alarmed when they see him, as though he's caught them talking about something or whatever. So now we have a mystery woman. I have no idea how she fits in. So I'm not sure that it has to do with anything, but I feel like Cornelia Robson is sort of becoming romantically involved with Dr. Besner, the German doctor. And so I don't know if that's foreshadowing something or if they're just playing up this cute little romance that she's going to get out from under Van Schuyler by getting married. They're on yet another little like tour of a temple or whatever near the, where the boat docked. And Simon and Lynette are sort of resting on the ground, and a boulder almost crushes and kills Lynette. Simon is super upset, and he is sure that Jackie pushed that boulder. Poirot and Tim Allerton happen to be nearby, and they run up to help them, and they escort them back to the boat. And as they're getting to the boat, Jackie, all fresh-faced and beautiful, is coming off the ship. And there's just no way she could be all like dust-free and chippery getting off the ship when, and have just done that. So then Simon's like, oh, well, it was just an accident, and like plays it off, but was it? Was it? What we do know about the boulder, like we can assume it wasn't an accident, right? I mean, I think you and I, as detectives, as sleuths, can assume that was not an accident. So where was everyone? Lynette and Simon and Poirot, Miss Allerton, Tim Allerton, Cornelia Robson, Miss Van Schuyler, Miss Bowers, Guido Rossetti, Andrew Pennington, and Dr. Besner all had gone ashore for that tour. Okay, so it was probably one of them. It obviously wasn't Lynette or Simon because they were like the one that it was being rolled at. And Tim and Poirot kind of run up together. So I think he's sort of alibying Tim, like they were standing near each other. So that leaves 7 other possible suspects. So then we get another new character on the steamship. His name is Colonel Race. He's a friend of Poirot. And he just happens to be taking their return trip on the boat back. He's after a man who killed 5 to 6 people, something to do with rioters. I mean, I think we can be pretty sure it's Ferguson, Mr. Ferguson, because like, I'm sure it's like anti-capitalist people like stirring up trouble. Although it's just occurring to me as I make that connection, what if he's actually after Guido Rossetti, right? Because I think, of course, we would suspect this anti-capitalist guy, but what if it's not? What if it's this archaeologist guy? I mean, he's flying under the radar. He's acting respectable. Miss Van Skyler is like looking, well, she's not looking, but she's having Cornelia look around for her stole. She's super upset. Apparently, her velvet stole has been stolen from a chair in the observational saloon. So, you know what I'm thinking. That's right. Tim! Tim the thief. We have our second possible theft in this book, and Tim could have done it. So that night, Poirot is headed to bed. He's following Van Skyler, Cornelia, Robin, and Mrs. Bowers, who are going to take Van Skyler to bed. And at the time, Lynette, Simon, Andrew Pennington, and Colonel Race are playing bridge in the observational saloon, and Jim Fanthorpe is in there reading a book. As Poirot leaves, Jackie enters, and I guess while they're talking in the hallway, that Cornelia Robinson comes back and starts to do some needlework. It's a kind of a shaky timeline there in the book. It doesn't say exactly, but that seems to be it, because this is when it gets very dramatic. Jackie sits down with Cornelia, who's doing some needlework, and she orders a double gin, says, "Here's to crime," and then downs it. At that point, shortly after that, Lynette, Andrew Pennington, and Colonel Race leave, but Simon stays, and I'm sure it's to like confront Jackie. A little after midnight, she starts a row with Simon. Jim Fanthorpe at this point gets up and leaves, but Cornelia stays because Jackie like tells her to, and Cornelia does what she's told. That's what she does. Then Jackie pulls a gun and shoots Simon. Cornelia runs out to get Jim Fanthorpe to come back, and Simon's been shot in the leg just below the knee. When Jackie sees this, she says, "Oh my God, I didn't really mean," drops the pistol, kicks it away, and then starts to become hysterical. Simon tells Jim to say it was an accident to whoever is like running up. Somebody's running up from outside, and it's like a servant checking on the noise he heard, and Jim's like, "Oh no, we were just popping the champagne, don't worry about it." Cornelia tries to calm Jackie down. Simon tells Jim to take Jackie to her room and for Cornelia to get Ms. Bowers to watch her because she's like a hospital nurse, and then to bring Dr. Besner to attend to his wounds. So it's possible that this just plays out exactly like one might think. Like it seems, but it's also possible that this was staged. So Dr. Besner, Jim Fanthorpe, and Cornelia help Simon to Dr. Besner's room for some light surgery. And they point out Cornelia is a really good assistant. And so I think, again, they're like gonna have a life together. Simon at that time is given pain meds. And I guess he's gonna stay in Dr. Besner's room because he says, like, don't tell my wife. So I think he's just gonna sleep there. And he's probably kind of out of it for the rest of the night. Jim is told to go find the gun so that like a servant doesn't find it in the morning. And on his way to do that, he checks on Jackie and Mrs. Bowers. And Mrs. Bowers has given her morphine and she's calmed down. But Mrs. Bowers does say she'll stay the rest of the night. And then Jim goes to find the gun and it's gone. Bet you saw that coming. The next morning, Colonel Race comes banging on Poirot's door and says, Lynette was shot through the head last night. So it probably wasn't Poirot or Colonel Race or Dr. Besner or Mrs. Bowers or Cornelia Robson or Jim Van Thorpe or Simon Doyle who shot her. That leaves both of the Allertons, both of the Otterborns, Andrew Pennington, Mr. Ferguson, Guido Ricchetti, or Miss Van Skyler. There are 8 suspects. Could be that was all a ploy, right? To keep people busy, to make the gun a thing that could be, anybody could have had it. You know, if Simon and Jackie were in it together and then they throw this big scene, then they're given drugs, right, that knock them out, then it obviously couldn't be them. And then he gets all the money and Jackie can marry them and they get off scot-free. But they just need somebody to kill her, right? That's the last that I've read so far. She died. There are, I believe, 8 suspects. Well, okay, then there's this 9th person, this woman that maybe has something to do with the boat that we know nothing about. I suppose that could be a 9th suspect. What do you think? Well, hopefully we'll get some good clues in the next part. So stay tuned and let's figure this thing out.